Hey guys, this is a quick tutorial, under 10 minutes, on how to do front and rear brakes on a 2006 RAV4. I think it's suitable for slightly earlier models, right up to about 2014. Jack your car up, put a jack stand underneath, remove the reservoir lid on your brake fluid and chock your tyres. Now it is important that you remove that lid on your reservoir, as you'll see during the video. When you have to squeeze your pistons in, I'll explain it a bit further, it will put brake fluid back up the line and you need it to be able to breathe. So up with the tyres, and there's a 14mm bolt up the top one. Take that off first. You only need to take that one off actually, and pull the caliper back. This will expose the brake pads, and they just about pop out with your fingers. If they're a bit stuck, screwdriver underneath, but they'll just pop out. New pads in, they've got little clips. Just replace the clips like for like as you take the old ones out on the new ones, and they just slot into place really quite simple. Brand new ones. Now we need to compress the piston. I get an old brake pad, the ones that I've just removed, and a clamp. And this is what I was talking about, pressurising the piston. You got to squeeze it back so there's enough room for the caliper to fit over the new wider brake pads, as they'll have the extra meat on them. See how thin that one was? There was next to nothing left on that brake pad. Squeeze up the piston, and once you've got that all the way back, just release your clamp. The piston will stay in place and the caliper will fold straight back over the top. Your 14mm bolt back in, tighten him up. And that's just how simple it is. Now I won't repeat the process on the other rear wheel because it's just the same. You can use a 14mm open ender just to hold the bolt in place if you choose, like that, whilst you're tightening it up. Back on, and you just repeat the process for the other side. Center cap. These are easy, just a knock-on job. Good to go. Right, over to the fronts. Once again, jack it up and lower it down onto your jack stand.
Yep.
There is actually points on the car that actually shows where the jack stand is. You'll see there's two little holes in the bottom of the sill. Okay, wheel off, and a slightly different process to the rears. 14mm again, can be a bit tight, gentle whack and they generally come off. So that's the bottom bolt, and the top bolt's there just above that brake bleeding nipple. You probably don't have to loosen this like I have, but there's the top bolt. Now you need to take the caliper off and rest it on top of the disc, and you'll see why.
Take the other screw out and lift it up and turn it upside down.
Because the piston's actually quite a bit larger than the rears. So brake pads out, same as the other way. As you can see, there's nothing left of those brakes. These are the clips. You need to clip them on. It just locks it in place once you put it in. Bit of wiggling. Sometimes they can be painful. In it goes. Clip. And it's in nearly. There it is. Now this piston, the old brake pad up against it, you'll see a bolt where the brake line comes in. There's a big nut. Make sure you put your clamp on the nut. You don't want to squash that brake line. And as you'll see, we're slowly pushing that piston in, so we can get that caliper over the top of the new wider brake pads. You might want to wear gloves as well, because it can be a dirty job. Release your clamp, get rid of the old brake pad, and she goes straight over. Both the bolts back in, and tighten up. Just not over tight, gentle whack, just to get them nice and snug. And front tyre back on. Now, as I said, it's very important that you keep an eye on that reservoir, because you're pushing those pistons back in, it's pushing fluid back up the line, and sometimes you can end up a little bit too much brake fluid. As you'll see at the end of this video, I ended up with it right up the max. So I actually got a small siphon and took probably 100 mils out because I just had too much brake fluid. Obviously when you finish, you want to pump the brakes a little bit anyway, because that'll put those pistons right where they need to be, up against those new brake pads. But you don't need to load the brakes or anything. It's pretty much good to go. That's how full it is. I need to take some of that out. Hope you enjoyed the video.